Mirza Mehboob Ali Baig Aslam vs. Union of India, 1996 ACJ 1314. Introduction. The case of Mirza Mehboob Ali Baig Aslam vs. Union of India, 1996 ACJ 1314, is an important judgment relating to motor accident compensation law. This case mainly deals with the liability of the government and public authorities in motor accident claims. The court explained the circumstances under which the Union of India can be held responsible for compensation arising out of accidents involving government vehicles or services. The judgment is significant for understanding vicarious liability and the scope of compensation under the Motor Vehicles Act. Facts of the case. In this case, the claimant suffered injuries due to a motor accident involving a vehicle connected with government service. The injured person filed a claim for compensation, alleging negligence on the part of the driver who was working under the control of the government. The Union of India contested the claim and argued that it should not be held liable for the acts of its employees performed during official duties. The main question arose as to whether the government could escape liability by claiming sovereign functions or whether it should compensate the victim like any other employer. Issues before the court. The primary issue before the court was whether the Union of India can be held liable for the negligent acts of its employees while operating government vehicles. Another issue was whether such liability can be avoided by claiming that the act was done in discharge of sovereign functions. Judgment of the court. The court held that the Union of India is liable to pay compensation for the negligence of its employees when such negligence results in injury to a third person. The court observed that when a government employee causes an accident while driving a vehicle in the course of employment, the government cannot escape responsibility merely by raising the plea of sovereign function. The court awarded compensation to the claimant and made it clear that the victim of a motor accident should not be left without a remedy simply because the wrongdoer was a government servant. Reasoning of the court. The court reasoned that motor accident compensation law is based on the principle of social justice. The purpose of the Motor Vehicles Act is to provide speedy and effective relief to victims of road accidents. If the government is allowed to avoid liability in such cases, it would defeat the object of the law. The court further stated that driving a vehicle, even for official purposes, is not a sovereign function. Therefore, the government is vicariously liable for the negligent acts of its employees performed during employment. Legal principles laid down. The court laid down the principle of vicarious liability of the state, stating that the government is responsible for the wrongful acts of its employees committed during the course of employment. The judgment clarified that sovereign immunity cannot be used as a defense in routine motor accident cases. Compensation must be paid to ensure justice to victims. Significance of the judgment. This judgment is important because it strengthens the rights of accident victims. It ensures that the government is treated like any other employer when its employees cause harm due to negligence. The case also limits the misuse of the doctrine of sovereign immunity and promotes fairness and accountability of public authorities. Conclusion. In conclusion, Mirza Mehboob Ali Baig Aslam vs. Union of India, 1996 ACJ 1314, is a landmark case in motor accident compensation law. The court rightly held the Union of India liable for the negligent acts of its employees. The judgment upholds the principles of social justice, victim protection, and vicarious liability. It is a highly relevant case for LLB students studying motor vehicle law and state liability.